welcome to our second communication skills workshop or session. And in today's session, we wanted to focus on overcoming speech anxiety, the fear of public speaking, or the fear of speaking in front of other people. And first, I think Isaac will take you through a small interactive exercise.
Yeah, guys. I'm going to be asking some questions. First of all, actually, who gets this reference? Anyone else? Anyways, how many of you believe that you can handle public speaking without feeling any fear? Two. Okay. And how many of you experience fear while speaking? I mean, how many of you believe that you're at least below average in that area? Why are you holding back? Raise your hands. You know?
Now you see how I feel.
Okay. Well, this is a bit weird, but those of you who raised your hands when you said you don't feel fear, I believe you guys are liars. There's no way that you can possibly feel no fear.
Fear is a strong word. Maybe
there's a way that
nervousness.
Maybe a little bit of fear, depending on how big the crowd is. Obviously, like you might feel a little nervous. But I would say, like, as you get more and more practice, like if you do more and more public speaking, then
that is right. Exactly.
That goes away. Like everything else, with practice, it gets better.
It gets better. That's my point. Yeah. Anyways, there's some things we need to realize about public speaking that we may assume are otherwise, and let's discuss them.
So these are realizations for those who feel fear or at least nervousness when they get into the stage to speak. And the first one, and the more important one in my opinion, is you don't look as nervous as you feel. You don't look as nervous as what you imagine you look like. I mean, for example, I currently, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say I'm around 8 or 7 on how nervous I am right now. But maybe I'll look like a 3 or 4 maybe. Can I get a rough estimate? Anyone? A shout out would work. On a scale 2, 4. Okay, we have a 4 there. Any other numbers?
2.5.
2.5. So back of my head, what I'm thinking is this is probably a 7 or higher. So how you look, when you look on the outside, isn't as bad as you think. So first realization is that's not what's happening out there. And second one is you can still be nervous and give a great presentation. We'll look ahead and we'll see that we can channel our nervous energy, basically the fact that our hearts are pumping fast, we have adrenaline everywhere. We can use that and we can turn that into actually energies getting pumped. We can actually utilize that. We can still be nervous and give a great presentation. And yeah, third point is actually kind of like that. Nervousness is a lot like excitement. You can be excited about something more than afraid of it. You can channel that nervous energy as in, oh my God, what am I going to do out there? And that's energy, that nervousness, and we can channel it into, okay, so this is me, this is gonna be hype. And you can turn that into hype as in something that you want to do, and you can change that energy because they're basically the same thing. When you're talking about physiologically speaking, they're both the same thing. If we have these realizations in mind, before we move on, are there any questions? I think the third point might raise a few questions at least. Do you have any questions from here?
Yeah, can you tell us a little more about how we can basically convert nervousness and look at it into more positive perspective and feel like it's excitement? Like any tips on that?
Yeah, I think the next slide might help a little bit. Oh, actually it would be the fourth slide. I'd have to run back and come back. But I'd also send a video, a link that would explain this, a video on YouTube that helps out on this. And basically the idea is, physiologically speaking, physically speaking, what happens when you're really excited, what happens when you're really pumped about something is basically the same thing that happens when you're nervous about something. The heart racing, the adrenaline, what changes between the two of them is your perspective about it. What are people going to think of me? What are people going to perceive of me? Versus what am I going to give to people? What are people going to get from this? Those two perspectives, if we have the change of perspective, we're already on that state, the state of excitement, which is the same as nervousness. That was what we meant by this.
Basically, whatever you're most nervous about is whatever you're most excited about. So realizing that you're excited about that thing more than how much you're going to mess up at that thing would give you more enthusiasm about it.
Are there any more questions before we move on? Feels like there are none. Some tips to help you out as you move forward. First is practice like crazy, and don't worry, we have an activity in the end, and it's an easier one, but that would help us all practice like crazy, at least 10 of us, 10 questions. The other thing is focus everything on the audience and the message, not you. Actually, in the end, we have a very good video. A person would say it better than I'm saying it right now. This is a very great important thing. You're not going out there and you're not having a confrontation against a huge crowd of people in which people are judging you and what do they think of me. Instead, you're doing an act of public service in which you're informing the audience. Put yourself in that shoe, as in, okay, I'm going there to help them, and how can I best help them? How can I best make it so that they understand what I'm trying to say? Those are helpful tips. Instead of focusing on you, focus on the audience and what they can gain out of it, and make sure to maximize that, and shifting that attention really helps. And thirdly, visualize your first moments going well. The greatest part of nervousness or messing up, the greatest reason would be imagining you'd mess up and expecting yourself to mess up as a consequence of imagining that. And visualizing your first moments, your moments going on stage as successful, putting yourself in a positive, optimistic outlook would really help you move forward. And the fourth one, I think I mentioned it while talking about the second one. Basically exactly the same as I said with the second one. Turn the uncomfortable situation of you facing off with a crowd into an act of public service in which you're doing a service for everyone that's listening to you, and make sure you perform that service really well. So these one are extra tips. I won't go into them in as much detail. First is channel the nervous energy, the one we've covered in the realization part. Critique yourself and accept criticisms from others. Practicing it in itself won't make you better, but practicing, looking back at it, maybe a video like the one I'm having right now, if I go through it, if I have other people critique what I'm doing and I critique myself also, it's really helpful. Slowing down also really helps, because when we go on stage, the first thing we do is speak way faster than okay, as you can see, I toned myself down when I saw this, but first thing we do is really pace ourselves ahead of what we normally, our normal speech, and people can feel into that. People can feel you being uncomfortable by the pace of which you talk, and slowing down and paying attention to that really helps. And being optimistic is also the one we've seen before. And before we jump into the activity, this is the video I mentioned before. It's actually a really good video, very well spoken. Can we open it like this? Wow.
What do you tell people when they ask you, how can I present like you? How can I get better?
The thing that really, really helps is I've learned about the perspective to change my perspective. So for example, I show up to give, and I always remind people that the most important thing about being an effective presenter, an effective speaker, is you have to show up with a giving attitude. You have to show up to give. You know something, you've seen something, you've done something, you've tried something that someone else thinks others need to hear. That's why they invited you to speak. The problem is the number of people who show up to take, to get. And you can see it, it's very plain to see. People ask a question and they say, you'll have to buy my book. Or you could just tell me the answer because you know the answer because you wrote the book, right? But clearly they're trying to drive book sales. It's a taking mentality. Every single slide of their PowerPoint has their Instagram, their email, their website, their Facebook. Well, clearly they want you to follow them. They want you to reach out. The last slide is their website and their email, right? They have a taking mentality. They come up and the first thing they do is tell you their credentials. Hi, my name is, Dr. Blah blah. I have 6 PhDs. I've worked for 55 companies. I advise CEOs and generals, and let me tell you a little something. It's about them. It's very easy and very quick to discern who's the giver and who's the taker. The best speakers, 100% of them. You look at all the top 10 folks, Sir Ken Robinson, Amy Cuddy, Brene Brown, right? Dan Pink, all of them. All of them are there to give. None of them want anything from anybody, not even your approval. No, I don't know any great speaker that stands in the backstage that goes, I'm gonna get a standing ovation. You may get one if you earn it, if they decide that what you have given them is of value. But that's not the reason you show up. You show up to give.
All right.
All right, now, as we've tried it last time, we're gonna play some games today. This time we're gonna do a little variation of charades. I'm not sure what the name is, but Murad already knows it, I believe. It's basically charades, meaning explaining. So the person is given a word, and the person is supposed to explain that word instead of body language. And here we're supposed to use words, using words that are not exactly the word. There's banned words. For example, the word could be table, and there's banned words that could be chair, wood, or something. And using other words than these banned words, the person is supposed to explain the word. And now, so that that person cannot use body language, the other people are supposed to close their eyes. Close their eyes, yeah.
And they just shout out what they think the word is.
This is also a listening exercise that we
Closing guys would be so extreme. Just don't move that much.
I think closing their eyes.
I mean, we'll try it, and if it gets a bit too extreme, then we can stop.
I think we can also instead of closing our eyes, but if the one who
This person is not allowed to move.
no turns to the board.
What's the difference, really?
I mean, in public speaking, I thought.
Sacrificing one person's comfort is
Like maybe we can write, or the words are gonna appear on the screen.
No.
In that case, maybe we can write them on the paper.
Yeah, I just don't want the presenter to be expressing the word in his. I just want the people to only listen to the.
Ah, okay, makes sense.
So let the presenter explain it in a way
help us to
who
somewhat
will
we
be
do that as
representing.
well. So let's give it a try. If it works, we can continue that way.
If not, then we can obviously open eyes. It's not like it's got a cost or anything. Anyways, we'll start from people that haven't been a part of the last exercise. I believe that was yesterday, I think. Yeah. We need volunteers for this.
It's going to start from easy to medium and hard, as usual. The easy one doesn't even have a banned word. The first question.
Okay, who didn't go to the stage yesterday? Did you? Okay, that's the easy one.
Right.
Start. Everyone close your eyes. Everyone goes to sleep. Everyone goes to sleep. Start.
I'm about to go to a stage, and what do I feel?
Nervousness.
Sorry. I'm facing a little hard problem in a contest. What do I feel?
Anxiety.
confused. I'm sure.
Stuck. Fear.
Yeah, something like that. But
Excitement.
no, it's not excitement. It's a hard problem, and
Frustrated.
Is it negative?
Panic.
give us some.
Panic.
Less confident.
I'm not sure now.
Do you want the head part?
Yeah.
Select anyone. All from the people closing their eyes.
I'll see. Done.
Daniel, open your eyes and come forward. The others, keep your eyes closed. This is the word you're supposed to explain without.
I have too much on my plate.
Hello.
Did you say it?
What did you? Yeah.
Murad.
Murad? Murad? Please.
Hello.
No. I feel like the stuff I'm doing is too much to bear. No, the stuff is too much to bear. I have task 1, task 2, task 3.
Unsolved
And-
problems.
It's too much. It's too much now.
Overwhelming.
Yes!
Closing our eyes will not happen. Little.
Closing your eyes.
From the rest of you guys, should we open our eyes for the next round or keep them closed? Keep you guys closed.
Voting.
I think
Yeah.
close is good.
Emre, open.
Vote for. Okay, people who says closing eyes. People who say we should close our eyes. Hands up. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Mikhail is good.
This one is good. The people who think we should open our eyes. Hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's equal. 7, 10.
So you
It's a tie. So this we keep our eyes closed. The next round we have to vote.
continue talking.
By the way, this round took 1 minute and 50 seconds.
Wow.
Just for information.
So next word, next volunteer. People. If we don't have any people who want to present,
Michael, do you?
Michael.
No, I haven't heard everything. I was out.
It doesn't matter.
You have a word, and you're supposed to explain that word without using that word or other words listed. And people guess it, then you win. You do it until people guess it. So the word is this, and the word you're not supposed to use is this and this. Okay, wait.
Close your eyes, guys.
Everyone goes to sleep.
And you can start.
I can order anyone. I can give order to anyone.
Boss. Powerful.
Commander.
King.
The king.
No.
Abel.
Order.
No. I can give order to my
Subject.
subjects.
So you are a king.
King. Dictator.
Dictator.
No.
Okay.
Ruler.
No, embrace plus.
Emperor.
Embrace plus.
Ruler.
But I will have to get there with my people's
Prime Minister.
vote.
President.
King. President.
President.
Well, not something. I'm sorry.
That's 50 seconds.
50 seconds.
49 seconds.
Okay. And should we have the vote again? Do you think? Change?
No, I
Okay.
You can close
Okay. Okay. Quick votes. People who want to open their eyes. This will be the final vote, by the way. No other votes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. It's tilted, so we can open our eyes next time.
You guys will vote.
Yeah, we both close.
Oh, then we will keep it to you. And who's our next volunteer?
Okay, let's have Murad come on. I'm very
Yeah.
curious.
I don't do it. I haven't played this game in English.
So this is your word.
So Murat, you can speak in Turkish.
Google Translate.
Okay.
Alright, open eyes is it?
Okay, so you are in the dark. You are trying to find out your way. You have something in your hand that's showing you the way.
Like,
Flashlight.
Too much experience.
Very
40
clear
seconds.
forward. It was nice. So this one went to the medium. Volunteers.
Who didn't come to the stage yesterday? Let's see hands.
Khalid.
Who else? Like guys, can you raise your hand if you weren't on the stage yesterday? Khalid, Faisal? Yo. So decide on the order.
Minase also, right? Yeah.
Minase, okay, then Minase. Because they are gonna decide on the order, so.
Kind of looks like a stag. The last one that went to London.
So this is your word. These are the banned words. No? You don't know the one? If you know the word.
Abstract.
Okay.
Let me start. There is an accident in somewhere, so the mans come to help you or someone, and they are trying to help you with water and
First aid.
no.
Emergency
Bath
kits.
salts.
Emergency kits.
Red Cross.
Can't say that word.
Glucose.
No. Okay, they are trying to help you. There is something that's harming you, so they are fighting with that thing.
Firefighters.
Okay. 1 minute and 10 seconds.
All right, who's our next volunteer? Khalid?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not much of a volunteer. Okay. Start the time.
Basically, I'm a fat white guy with a big belly,
Obesity.
and what happens at that time?
Obesity.
Santa.
Santa.
Christmas.
Obesity.
What's that? Christmas.
How did you?
Good job, guys.
If
you give me a year, I would never say it. Great job, man.
50 seconds.
How?
Okay, the next volunteer would be Faisal.
The line for
the top of the list.
It's clearly a complicated word.
All right.
Learning how to precision. I got it.
I would say Ethiopian flag, to and fro.
Red.
Rainbow.
Yeah.
Like 3 seconds. Is that LGBT?
That was 50 seconds. You took 10 trying to come up with
Ah, okay. Thinking is also included. Processing time.
By the way, the presenters cannot make movements. Keep that in mind. Okay. Next in slide.
No.
Leo.
Yo.
Yeah.
And we start.
It is something in your house. Sorry, it's not anything. It's something in your house. When you stand in front of it, it duplicates yourself.
Twenty seconds.
I have a clone machine in my house. Now I think we're done with the
Four speakers. Yeah. Any free volunteers? Anyone?
Okay, but you first.
I used to make my computer at home. After you do that, you will feel better.
Rest.
Very
What?
Sleep manually.
Sleep.
Not a bit explanation, but good.
8 seconds.
Debug, I think debugging Russia.
After you do, you feel better.
Yeah, after you debug.
All right then. Any other volunteers? Come on, not again.
Ante.
And start.
When you think you have enough or more than enough money and you need some things, you do.
Try it.
For yourself.
Vacation.
What is it?
Traveling.
When you have a lot of money, what?
Yeah, can you repeat?
When you have a lot of money and you need something to own,
Buy.
you
You
go to
purchase.
that place and very close.
Shopping.
30 shopping.
33 seconds. Last one. Last volunteer. Last chance for anyone.
Yok, assist dia ni.
Did you have Emre ever?
Assist.
We didn't, did we?
Emre.
Emre. Emre.
Why did we mention you with the stack popping?
Which one is my word? Okay.
This is difficult.
And start.
There is right, left, and
Middle.
4 main directions.
This one is a hard one.
Front,
Uh,
Up, down, top, bottom.
Yes.
North, east, west.
Up, down. That's good. And like you can hold the thing.
Upside down.
Yes.
We have a bonus round. Doesn't
A bonus? Does it have a price?
Yo.
Yeah.
Yo.
And by the way, 25 seconds.
Alright, is that record?
Who wants to do that
Record
bonus
is
round?
Murad with, I don't remember the time. What was Murad's time?
For 2 seconds.
14 seconds. Yeah, what was the record?
100% faster.
The second would be Khalid 70, 15 seconds.
Yeah. Also,
Also, Faisal's, yeah, 15 seconds.
C sharp, bro.
First, apparently faster than C++. Okay, who do you want for this round? Lensa?
Lensa.
I vote for Lensa.
Okay, Lensa.
One.
Oh, okay. One, listen.
And start.
Okay. Okay.
Stop the time.
So he's one of us, and
Kidus. Kala.
Okay.
Emre. Michael. Should we sort them? And binary search?
he speaks in a lower voice.
Huh?
Muhammad.
Muhammad.
No voice? Lower voice, okay.
She wasn't allowed to say silent, so she just said lower voice.
So,
He's speaking in silence.
35 seconds. So the main aim of this was to help you see in terms of the audience, speak in a way that the audience, you're sure to make the audience understand. Thank you for for your active participation, and this was our today's session.
Thank you very much.